On August 17, 2022, at a small restaurant located on a busy street in the heart of the city, an unusual incident took place. It all started with a simple meal that quickly turned into a heated confrontation between a customer and the staff. The woman in this story, who would later be referred to as Karen, entered the restaurant in a bad mood and was dissatisfied with everything around her. Within just a few minutes, from complaining about the quality of service to making demanding requests about the smallest details, Karen made herself the center of attention, creating a tense situation that eventually required police intervention. Once upon a time, in a quaint little restaurant nestled in the corner of a busy street, there was a woman named Karen. Now, Karen wasn't your average diner. She wasn't just a guest, she was the star of her own show, and the world was her stage. The moment she stepped foot inside the cozy establishment, it was clear she expected perfection. She wasn't interested in just a meal, she was there for an experience, one that catered exclusively to her every need and desire. But, as is often the case with Karen, her high expectations quickly collided with the realities of a restaurant that simply wasn't equipped for her sense of entitlement. Karen had barely settled into her seat before the complaints began. The waiter, a young man with a smile that quickly turned strained, approached her table with a glass of water. "Excuse me," Karen called out in her unmistakably sharp tone, her face scrunching in exaggerated disgust as she examined the glass. "This glass is dirty. How dare you serve me this filth? I demand a new one immediately." Her voice cut through the air like a whip, leaving the poor waiter scrambling to correct the injustice. He rushed off, his nerves fraying as he exchanged the glass for a clean one. But Karen wasn't finished yet. Just as the waiter thought he had appeased her, her eyes scanned the room, and her patience, as thin as ever, snapped once again. "What is this?" she barked, her words sharp enough to cause the entire room to pause. Nearby, a group of waitstaff was engaged in a light-hearted conversation, gossiping about their weekend plans. To anyone else, it was just a normal moment of downtime, but to Karen, this was nothing short of a catastrophe. "Are you kidding me?" she snapped. "I waited 5 minutes for salt and pepper, and instead of doing your job, you're chit-chatting about your weekend plans. This is outrageous." Her voice carried through the dining area, each word dripping with disbelief and outrage. Karen's face was a portrait of disdain as she glared at the staff, her arms crossed tightly across her chest as if to ward off any notion of reason or civility. She wasn't just upset about the delay in condiments. To her, this was a sign of the restaurant's blatant disrespect for her time and needs. For Karen, there was no such thing as a minor inconvenience, it was always a grand offense. And in her mind, a grand offense demanded a grand response. The tension in the air grew palpable as she continued to huff and puff, making sure everyone in the vicinity was aware of her dissatisfaction. She leaned over to her companion and muttered loud enough for the whole room to hear, "Honestly, if I were running this place, no one would dare behave like this. But of course, they don't have my standards." She wasn't just a patron now. She had elevated herself to a consultant, offering unsolicited advice on how the entire restaurant should be operated, as though her dining experience was the only one that mattered. As Karen ranted on, it became clear that no matter how much the staff apologized or tried to rectify the situation, it was never going to be enough. Every small inconvenience, every little delay, fed into her sense of being wronged. A wrong that, in her eyes, had no choice but to be righted with an immediate and total overhaul of the restaurant's operations, if not its very existence. It wasn't just a dinner out for Karen, it was an audition, where everyone around her was expected to perform at the highest level of service, with her as the judge. And woe unto anyone who failed her rigorous standards. Little did she know, however, that this particular restaurant, with its own set of policies and rules, would soon be the stage for a much more dramatic scene than she had ever anticipated. After what seemed like an eternity of escalating complaints, the manager, now at his wit's end, was finally called to the scene. He had been doing his best to handle Karen's relentless grievances, but it was clear that this wasn't going to be solved with polite apologies or quick fixes. With a deep breath, he approached Karen and asked her, as diplomatically as possible, to leave. "Ma'am, you've been disruptive, and we're asking you to leave now," he said, his voice calm but with a hint of weariness that came from repeated failed attempts to placate her. Karen, however, was not one to let such a simple request slide. Her eyes narrowed as she leaned back in her chair, clearly affronted by the audacity of the manager. With a dramatic flourish, she crossed her arms and huffed, puffed, and then, in a voice loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear, declared, "Do you know who I am? I have the right to be here." It was a statement so typical of her character, one that suggested she believed the very rules of the restaurant, or perhaps the world itself, bent to her will. She wasn't just a customer. In her mind, she was royalty, entitled to whatever she demanded, and certainly not to be told to leave. The manager, now faced with a person who clearly felt above reproach, exchanged an uncomfortable glance with the rest of the staff. He knew this was no ordinary confrontation. With no other choice, he dialed the police, fully aware that this situation was about to escalate far beyond his control. The police arrived within minutes, their presence transforming the tense atmosphere into something far more serious. One officer, trying to maintain his professionalism in the face of Karen's evident disdain, approached her with a polite greeting. "Hi. How are you?" he asked, but the politeness didn't quite hide the firm undertone in his voice. "The manager has asked you to leave." Karen, however, was not one to be easily deterred, especially by the mere presence of authority. She crossed her arms even tighter and shot the officer a look that could freeze water. "The manager is an idiot, and I'm not going anywhere." She spat, as though he had just insulted her personally. Her defiance was not just a refusal to comply, it was a refusal to acknowledge that anyone, let alone a humble restaurant manager or a police officer, could possibly have the authority to tell her what to do. In her mind, her desires, her comfort, and her sense of entitlement were far more important than any establishment's rules. The officer, still maintaining a calm demeanor, gave her a gentle push toward the door, repeating that she needed to leave. "Well, you need to leave, ma'am, or else." His voice trailed off, but the meaning was clear. But Karen, always quick to escalate situations in her favor, wasn't done. She puffed her chest out and defiantly attempted to storm past the officer, as if she could simply force her way through the barrier of authority that now stood before her. "I'm not leaving. Do you know who I am?" she cried, her voice rising in pitch. The officer, now fully aware that this wasn't just an irritated customer but someone with a much larger chip on her shoulder, turned to Karen with an air of finality. "Ma'am, you're being trespassed by the restaurant management. Now, I'm going to have to arrest you for resisting arrest," he said as he began to place the cuffs on her. Karen, of course, was less than pleased. In fact, she was furious. Her eyes widened, and her face turned crimson as she struggled against the cuffs. "What? You can't do this. This is absurd," she screamed, trying to wriggle her hands free. "These handcuffs are cutting off my circulation. How dare you treat me like a criminal?" At this point, Karen's outrage reached a fever pitch. She began to fidget and complain not just about the arrest, but about her mistreatment in general. "I'm a law-abiding citizen. I don't deserve this treatment," she bellowed. "I'm a mother, a grandmother, and I volunteer at my church. This is a disgrace." She threw out her list of personal virtues as though it should absolve her from any consequences, but for all her protests, it was clear that the officer wasn't swayed by her self-appointed moral superiority. He simply gave her a look that was both tired and understanding, as though he had seen this act play out 1,000 times before. With the patience of someone who had dealt with difficult people day in and day out, the officer calmly explained, "The only reason you're in this situation is because you refused to leave when asked multiple times. The manager asked you to leave, and you resisted. This is the result of your actions." His words, while measured, were a clear reminder that Karen's sense of entitlement had led her down a path where even her best excuses couldn't save her from the consequences of her refusal to comply. The handcuffs, the police officers, and the escalating drama were the result of one simple truth. Karen's belief that she was above the rules had finally caught up with her. Karen, however, wasn't quite finished with her tirade. She was a woman who thrived on confrontation, and the idea of being arrested for simply complaining about bad service struck her as utterly absurd. "But I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just a customer who complained about bad service. Why are you arresting me? This is outrageous," she cried, her voice rising in an almost theatrical display of innocence. She could not comprehend that the accumulation of her disruptive behavior, ranging from demanding new glassware to berating the staff, had crossed a line. In her mind, she was simply exercising her right to demand the best service, and that should never come with consequences. The officer, clearly worn down by her refusal to accept responsibility, let out a deep sigh. His tone remained steady, though it carried a hint of exhaustion. "Ma'am, you were told to leave. You resisted when we tried to escort you out. That's why you're being arrested. It's not personal. It's just what happens when you refuse to cooperate." His words were simple and direct, yet Karen's obstinate refusal to understand the logic was palpable. To her, the idea that someone could be arrested for escalating a minor inconvenience like bad service seemed utterly foreign. Why should she, the very epitome of right and justice, be penalized? But Karen's argument, if anything, only grew more heated. She was beyond reason now, and every word that came out of her mouth dripped with indignation. "This is ridiculous. You're arresting me over some salt and pepper. You're abusing your power," she accused, her arms flailing as if the officer had committed a grievous crime. Salt and pepper, those two tiny condiments, had somehow become the symbol of injustice in Karen's world. She couldn't see that it wasn't the salt or the pepper. It was her refusal to recognize any authority that had led to the situation. To her, it was an attack on her rights, and she was more than willing to paint herself as the victim. The officer, now clearly irritated but still composed, replied with an edge of sarcasm in his voice, "You could have just left when asked." "This is on you, Karen." His words cut through the air, a reminder that the outcome of this entire debacle was a direct result of her unyielding refusal to comply with the most basic of requests. He wasn't arresting her for the service itself. He was arresting her for making a scene, for refusing to leave when it was clear she had no right to stay. But Karen was too entrenched in her sense of self-importance to hear it. As the officers began to escort her out, Karen wasn't about to let go of her narrative of victimhood. She huffed and puffed, demanding their names, as if a future complaint would somehow undo the reality of her situation. "I want to know who you are. I'm going to file a complaint against all of you. You'll see," she threatened, her voice laced with venom. "You'll be sorry for doing this to me." Her threats were as empty as her understanding of the law, but the officers, unfazed by her outbursts, continued their work. They had seen it all before: entitled customers throwing tantrums, believing their complaints and do the consequences of their actions. But Karen wasn't finished. "You don't have to do this," she pleaded, her voice now tinged with desperation. "Just let me go. I didn't deserve this." She whined, her sense of injustice now fully entrenched. She was now clinging to her identity as a mother and grandmother, as if her familial role somehow absolved her from any wrongdoings. "I'm a mother, a grandmother. You can't treat me like this," she wailed, as if being escorted out of a restaurant was the worst possible thing that could happen to anyone. The officer, now thoroughly unimpressed, maintained his unshakable resolve. "You've been arrested. You'll be processed, and then we'll be done here." His voice was firm and final. There was no room for negotiation, no more patience to entertain her self-centered arguments. Karen's refusal to accept the reality of the situation was almost surreal. She clung to her version of events, a distorted narrative where she was the hero, and everyone else was in the wrong. But in this moment, it was clear to everyone but Karen. The only thing she was guilty of was not recognizing when she had crossed a line, and now there would be consequences. At this point, the officer couldn't help but smile to himself, a faint expression of amusement breaking through his otherwise stoic demeanor. "Ma'am, this all started because you wouldn't leave, and now, here we are. You made this happen," he remarked, his tone dripping with an irony that Karen, of course, failed to recognize. She was still deep in her rant, wrapped up in her own narrative of victimhood. "I'm just a woman who wanted decent service. Why are you treating me like a criminal?" she continued, her voice laced with disbelief. In her mind, the entire situation was a gross misunderstanding, an innocent woman asking for a little respect, and instead receiving the cold hand of the law. The officer, by now, had heard enough. He had tried to reason with her, to explain that the situation had escalated because she refused to cooperate. But Karen was too consumed by her own sense of entitlement to hear anything other than her own complaints. She truly believed that a simple request for better service should have entitled her to an unchallenged, red carpet experience, and anyone who dared to question her right to that was simply in the wrong. The idea that her behavior had become unreasonable never crossed her mind. In her mind, it was still a battle of wills between her and the disinterested restaurant staff that was somehow at fault for her predicament. The officer, now shaking his head in a mixture of disbelief and frustration, responded with a calm, matter-of-fact tone. "Karen, we've given you plenty of chances to leave peacefully. Now, you're going to jail, and it's all because you couldn't let this go." His words were simple, but they carried the weight of the situation. He wasn't arresting her for asking for better service. He wasn't arresting her for her complaints. He was arresting her because she had crossed the line into something far more serious, disrupting the peace and refusing to leave when asked. But Karen was still in denial. She was still crying out in disbelief, her world falling apart around her as she clung to her outrage. "This is how you treat a law-abiding citizen, a mother, a teacher, a volunteer?" she asked, as though somehow expecting the officer to empathize with her position, to recognize her status as a good person, as if that should absolve her of any consequences. But the officer was unmoved, and Karen's attempts to gain sympathy fell on deaf ears. Her monologue, however, didn't stop there. As she was placed into the back of the police car, her sense of injustice only intensified. "I'm going to post about this on Facebook," she threatened, clutching her phone as if it were her weapon of retaliation. "Everyone will know how I was treated today." She was already imagining the virtual outrage she would stir up with her story, how she would paint herself as the innocent victim, wronged by the system, a martyr for all those who had ever faced slow service or an unclean glass. The officer, however, merely nodded in acknowledgement. He had heard this all before. Every entitled person who thought their social media post could somehow reverse the events of the day, that their online narrative would triumph over reality. But the officer knew how this would end. Karen would post her story, sure, but it wouldn't change the fact that she had caused a scene, escalated the situation unnecessarily, and now had a mugshot to accompany her complaints. Her plan to be a social media sensation would fall flat because, in the end, she wasn't a hero of the story, she was the cautionary tale. And so, as Karen sat in the back of the squad car, still muttering about her rights, her public image, and her supposed innocence, she began to grasp the full scope of what had transpired. This wasn't just about bad service anymore. She had turned a simple complaint into a full-scale confrontation, and now she was facing the consequences. A night in jail, a lesson in humility. Perhaps, just maybe, the reality of the situation was finally starting to sink in. And thus, Karen learned it the hard way. When you turn a restaurant complaint into a full-blown confrontation, sometimes it leads to more than just bad food. It can lead to a night in jail. The lesson, though painfully learned, was clear. Don't mess with restaurant staff or the law unless you're prepared to handle the consequences. Sometimes, demanding respect and throwing tantrums will get you neither, but rather a one-way ticket to a much less glamorous place, the back of a police car. In the end, as the police car rolled out of the neighborhood, Karen still couldn't understand why things had escalated so far. She had gone from a picky, complaining customer to a criminal arrested for resisting law enforcement. What started as a dispute over food or service had turned into an irreversible situation simply because she didn't know when to stop. The lesson to be learned is this: in life, a person's attitude and behavior can determine the outcome of a situation. If you fail to control yourself and show respect to others, whether you are right or wrong, you will ultimately be the one to suffer the consequences. Only humility, calmness, and the ability to listen can help us navigate difficulties without causing more trouble.